All 3 captain picks have been successful this season, let's make it 4. First up on the shortlist is Mo Salah against Bournemouth at Anfield. Secondly is Gabriel Jesus against Fulham at the Emirates. Penultimately is Erling Haaland against Palace at the Etihad. And lastly is Son Heung-min, who plays Forest at the City Ground. He's the only player on the shortlist that doesn't have the home advantage this game week. This week's honourable mentions are De Bruyne and Kane. I'd rather go for Haaland if you target the City fixture, he's got better data, and the same goes for Son compared to Kane in the Spurs fixture as well. Salah and Son benefit from being midfielders, they get the extra point per goal scored and the clean sheet point potential as well, you can see that in the stats. Son just about makes it into the top 2 players, it's mainly the expected return points per 90 minutes. As we already know, they're better at projecting future return points than actual return points themselves. Salah dominates this section, and this is based on a considerable sample size of data, with this and last season combined. Moving on to the set pieces, Salah and Haaland are on penalty duties for their respective clubs. Kane's on pens for Spurs, which means Son isn't, but he does take in direct free kicks and corners, and some direct free kicks as well. Jesus isn't high up in the pecking order for penalties at Arsenal, and he doesn't take any free kicks or corners either. Whilst penalties aren't so frequent, they are the most valuable, therefore the penalty takers are the winners of this section. Salah's got the highest anytime goal scorer odds this game week, but Haaland only trails by 1%. Salah's also ahead of him on the anytime assister odds, and that's by 10%. This means it's a full house for the Egyptian this game week, he's got the best chance of returning. These odds are based on the assumption that each player plays 90 minutes, we'll review the expected minutes later on in the video. The expected minutes are included in the points projections. Salah wins on Fantasy Football Fix by 2.4 and Fantasy Football Scout by 2.6. Yet again, it's Haaland who's ahead out of the 3 remaining players. By comparing the opposition's defence, we can see it's actually the City forward that's got the most difficult fixture. Although Palace do have a decent defence, City are more than capable of breaking them down, and that's displayed through the clean sheet odds. I'd usually say Son's got the easiest opponents in Forest, they've got almost 2 expected goals conceded per 90 minutes, but the home advantage isn't there. Salah edges it with the easiest fixture against Bournemouth at home, they've got a 4% chance of obtaining a clean sheet, whilst Forest are 3 times more likely than that. It's worth noting that these defensive numbers are from this and last season combined. There's also been a 1.6 multiplier applied to the 3 promoted sides. That's because the Premier League is roughly 60% more difficult from a defensive perspective. Before we conclude, let's carry out a quick risk assessment. Neither of these 4 players played in the Carabao Cup midweek. They've had a week's worth of rest, which is enough. If anything, I just wanted to confirm that there's no concerns about Salah's fitness and 80 expected minutes is fine. The data implies that he's the best captain for game week 4. If you don't own him, Haaland's your best bet. He's on penalty duties, he's got the highest chance of an attacking return, and the highest points projections at Fantasy Football Fix and Fantasy Football Scout. Obviously that's excluding Salah. Thanks for watching, I've got a team selection video coming out on Friday, I've got £1 million in the bank, plus 2 free transfers to spend as well. Make sure you don't miss it, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already.